Okay, so we're going to review. We actually have talked about these before. Review how to graph these. So each of these numbers tell us something about the graph, whether it's moving it or changing the steepness. Do you remember talking about all of those things? Okay, so the plus and minus means that it's moving somewhere, and the number in the front tells you if it's steep or not. And then the negative talks about what? Well, there it flips upside down. Yep. Okay, so let's draw an arrow to each one of these things. So right here, this negative sign means that we're going to flip it upside down. What does the 2 tell us? More or less steep? More steep. And where are we moving the parabola? Okay, let's maybe look at the last one right here. See the 8 and the 7? Which one is the left and the right, and which one is the up and the down? Remember that? Okay, so if it's with the x, where are we moving it? Left or right, and the number on the end is the up, down. Okay, so looking at this one, where are we going? This one's going to move up. Okay, so it's parabola. We're going to move up 10, which is at the very top of this graph right here. Okay, it's flipped upside down, and it's more steep. So that means if you were trying to ski down this parabola, it would be really difficult. Okay, so we're going to make it skinny and opening down. Okay, the next one. Let's write what each of these numbers and clues are. The minus sign, we flip the 1/2. Less steep. And where are we moving this? Yes, remember the left and the right are the opposite sign that you think it should be, or the opposite direction, I should say, based on the sign. Okay, so knowing all of these things, we're going to move left. So it's going to start there. And it's flipped upside down and less steep, so this would be easier to ski down than this blue one on the left. So you make it a little bit wider. Okay. Where are we traveling here and here? So we'll go right that far and down 7. Now we don't have a number in front, so what does that mean? It's the regular size parabola, so we need to plot our points on this one. So I'll remind you where those are. So we've got right 8 and down 7. So we're right there. So our first set of points is up 1 and over 1. And then from the vertex, we're going to go out 2 and up 4. So if there is not an a value in front of your x, you do need to show me those 5 points. Okay, if it's more steep, it's inside of those points. If it's less steep, it's outside of those points. Questions? Yep.
Where did you get the 2 dots on the lower?
These two?
Yep.
So this is the pattern that it's always going to follow if you don't have a number in the front. So it's just memorizing that it's up 1 over 1 and then out 2, up 4 every single time. Other questions? All right. Let's try this one. Do we know where it's moving, left or right? The only thing we do know is the steepness, because we've got our 2 in the front. Okay, but we need to change this over so that it's in vertex form, which is what the last slide was all in. so we know how far to move it left or right. So in order to do that, here's what vertex form looks like. Okay, so write that down. Now, here's the reason why in our last section we talked about finding the vertex, which was labeled HK. Okay, so there is a reason. It's because the H and the K go right into this equation, this form of it. Okay, so remind me, how do you find H? So we're going to start with that. Okay, so looking at our equation up here, what would we put on the top? Positive 4, and then 2 times A, which gives us 1. How did we find K? Yep, we plugged this in for X, so we substitute all of those. What's that? It's not a trick question. -5? Is that what you're getting? 2 minus 4 minus 3? Okay, so now we know the vertex. So let's not graph it yet. Let's put them in the equation. So here's what we know. Y equals A parenthesis X minus 1 squared minus 5. So we've got minus 1 because the formula asks us to subtract whatever the H value is. Okay, so we minus 1, and then this is minus 5, not plus K, because this just happened to be a -5 right here. Okay, so this is what we know so far, but we don't have our A value. What is the A value? 2. So whatever is here, that is the A, so we reuse it in our formula. So looking at graphing it now, it's a lot easier to graph once it's in vertex form. Where are we traveling? This is down, and this is, so we'll go right 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 5. Is it more steep or less steep? More steep, because it's bigger than 1. So then we'll just make it harder to ski down, which means it needs to be skinnier, and you're good to go. So whenever you see those plus or minuses, when you're in vertex form, remember those are moving numbers. Questions? All right, last example then. We're going to practice changing these over into vertex form, which is exactly what we did, but we're not going to graph these. So in order to get to vertex form, I'm going to write it up here. Y equals A x minus h squared plus k. In order to do that, we need h and k. So what are we going to write? So we've got positive 4, 2 times 1, which is 2. Now we need k. So we put 2 in here, right? So we got 2, 2, we get 5. Okay, so we have hk and we also have a, right? So we can write this, y equals, we can put a 1 here if we want to, or we can just leave it blank. We've got x minus h plus k. Questions on that? Okay, let's try this one. Need to find h. So what are we putting here? 24. And that's a -4. So what do we get? -3. We need to find k. So to find k, we put the -3 back in. So we've got -4, -3 squared. What do we get here? So this is -36, positive -15. What's that? -21? Is that what you get? Okay. All right. So what's our equation? Y equals what?
-4 parentheses x plus 3 squared plus 21.
Good. Why is this a plus here, guys?
It's just chopped off.
Here, yeah, you got a minus a negative. You're always subtracting this h value. So if it's minus -3, it's really +3. Questions on switching that over? Okay, this is one of your, well, not this exact example, but this is going to be on your test next week. So here we have a picture of a parabola, and we need to come up with the equation. Okay, which one is h and k? hk is your vertex, right? Okay, so let's put hk right here. So we're going to put those right into the equation where they need to go. We've got y equals, I'm going to put the whole formula up here. All right, so in for h, we need to put -3. So we've got x, that would be +3, right? And then +2. So all I did was put in the two vertex numbers, h and k. Now the other one that we need is a. Now we can't just copy it from the equation because we don't have the equation yet. What could we do so that we could solve for a? They gave us another point. What are these? What letters? Yeah, this is a coordinate. That's x and y. So we can put that in for x and y. Let's see, we've got 8, got a, -1. Okay, so we put in the x and the y, and now we just have one variable. Now, a lot of kids make an error, a very simple error on solving this, so we're going to go through this. When you're going through this problem, we've got 8. What's this right here? And then squared. Okay, so they do this. They do a times 4 plus 2. What do you think kids do that is incorrect right here?
They divide more than minus.
Good guess, but that's not the most common mistake. They take 4 plus 2. Why can't we take 4 plus 2? Yeah, 4 is attached to your a. So this is actually what I recommend doing. When you do this step and you simplify the parentheses, don't write it like this. Write it like this. And then you won't make that mistake. Okay, because those are really the same things. A times 4 is the same thing as 4 times a. Okay, so now it'll be a lot easier to get this right. We won't make a mistake on it. So we subtract 2 and divide by 4. And then always simplify this. So 6 over 4 is really, we'll go 3 over 2. Okay, so now we can write this. because we just figured out what a was. Because we only need a and our h and k to write this equation. We've got y equals, we just figured out a was 3/2. We have x plus 3 squared plus 2. Questions?